So this is kind of aggravating. I already recorded my responses to your writing questions that you guys sent me a couple weeks ago, and they aired out for some strange reason. So here we go, round 2, Electric Boogaloo. Okay, so Michael Stiles asks, what made me want to write? I don't know. I guess I've always kind of written, I wrote a lot of poetry in high school, and then I also started writing stories with, like, my friend Shelby would spend the night, and when we would write these silly little stories back and forth, like I would write for like a while, and then she would take over the story, and we would go back and forth, and that was kind of how we spent like our Friday nights after the football game. And so that was a lot of fun. And then one night I had this really detailed dream, like it was like a film, and I have dreams like this a lot. And I woke up in the morning and I was telling it to Mike, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna write this. Like had vague ideas about writing books before, but decided, like, I'm just gonna write it. And I started writing it, and that became Violent Violet. And each story has gone from there. I just really love writing. Another thing that would frustrate me I would read books and they wouldn't go where I wanted them to go, like the characters didn't do what I wanted them to do or whatever, and it frustrated me. So I thought, well, I should just write my own stories. And the irony is they don't always go where you want them to go either. So there's that. Do you put any of your life into your books? Yes, I do. I think that's normal with any kind of creative thing, whether you paint, write, do music, whatever. A piece of you is always in it. Sometimes it's more obvious. Sometimes it's vague. It's a memory from childhood or a place that you used to go. Definitely a lot of my books, I mean, they're written about the town that I grew up in. Or not about that, but they're centered there. So there's a lot of my personal life, places that I went, grew up in, and certain memories, experiences, etc. are written into the stories. And so yes, very much so. And do you want to write a children's book? I've talked about this with people. I would actually. It's just finding the time to do it, and I have a couple illustrators who I think would be amazing. It's just finding the time to do it and figuring out what the story would be. But yes, I would absolutely like to do that at some point. Nikolai Pike asks, who inspired Violet? Well, her original story was inspired by that dream, and in that dream I was Violet. However, Violet is most definitely her own person. The only thing we have really in common is that we both have black hair and blue eyes, and we grew up in Manaway, Ohio. Besides that, we're not alike. I don't think. Maybe certain aspects, but she's definitely her own person. She makes choices I would never make, and she's way cooler than me by 1,000%. So I guess me, kind of, but not really. Kind of a lame answer. And what genre do you think needs to be retired? Okay, I was recently made aware of Bigfoot erotica. I don't think the world needs Bigfoot erotica. I mean, I guess it's funny, but like if it's a joke, okay, but I'm pretty sure that's bestiality. I'm not a fan. I think any erotica related to animals, we can do without that world. Gross. My face is hilarious. Okay, anyways. Derek Power asks, would Violet make a good babysitter? Violet would make an excellent babysitter because she is fiercely loyal and nobody would touch that child. The only problem she would have might be controlling her foul mouth. But if I can do it, she can do it. I think she'd make an awesome babysitter. I guarantee nobody would hurt that child. And she's silly and would probably spoil them rotten. So yeah. Although she might let them watch things on TV they shouldn't watch, because she's kind of not a very strict parent, which you'll find out later in later books. Yeah. Later books. Ooh, that was a spoiler. Yikes. Carla Collins says mixed story. Mixed story has been written, and I think you might be reading it already. Yes, mixed story. He is an interesting character and has interesting connections to various characters that you know already. And his story will be coming out, well, it's written. I don't know when it's going to come out, but I think you're reading it already. Mara Darkley asks, what inspired the great titles? Originally Violent Violet was called Violet Ashes, I think, or something like that. And then I found out there was already something called that, so I had to come up with a new name. And I had already written the Violent Violet thing in the book, so it just kind of struck me. And then the subsequent titles kind of just came out of left field, sort of. They just kind of named themselves, I guess, if that makes any sense. Does living in Arizona inform the scenes in your books, or are you more inspired by growing up in the Midwest? Definitely more inspired by growing up in the Midwest. I guess because my formative years were spent there, it's still kind of ingrained in me that I'm an Ohioan. So definitely these stories, the Violet stories, are definitely inspired by that. However, in Ilya's story, which has also been written, there will be some Arizona stuff in that book. But mostly Midwest, for sure. I mean, a lot of the stories are places that I actually grew up, so yeah. Do you base your characters on people you know, or are they complete fabrications? Some of them are complete fabrications. All of them are made up, but there are certain aspects of people I know in certain characters, and most of those people know this. There's certain things that I was able, I don't know how to say it. There's certain things that I was able to kind of emotionally work through by putting it in these characters. And I'm not going to say what or who, but it was fun. I love putting little inside jokes in my stories in certain characters. And there's a lot of that in my books, and the people that know, but they're not things that anyone else would really particularly find funny or interesting or whatever, but those people would know. And I love that. I love putting little nods to people and that sort of thing in stories, or borrowing certain scenarios, certain experiences that I had with certain people. I love putting those kinds of things in there, but they're never blatant, and they're always twisted a little, so they're not like super obvious. And all the people know, well, not all of them, but the ones that matter know. How long do you intend to stick to this dated 2 space after periods rule? Me, I'm hanging on till they pry the spacebar from my cold dead hands. I was very strict about the 2 space after the period rule until recently, And I still instinctively do it. However, when I'm editing, I'm not sure I check anymore to make sure. But I'm for it. I instinctively still do it. So I think they're still in there. I guess you'll find out. And Mara also asks, and how many sequels before I make it into the story as a majorly minor character? I am so doing this. You don't even know, girl. Just hold on. I'm putting you in somewhere. So that means you're going to have to read, okay? Eddie Thorne, question number 1. Hi, Eddie. When you create a character, do you have a developed and distinct personality for them, or do you let them reveal themselves to you as you write? Both. Certain characters are definitely more written kind of in stone, but they still continue to evolve and do things that surprise me, or I would not want them to do. Other characters kind of have to slowly reveal themselves, and I guess that's kind of true of any relationship that you have with anybody. You know, certain people you kind of click with immediately and you know them immediately. Whether you know all their facts of their life or not, you know them. And it's kind of the same with characters. Certain people are very written in stone, and others have to tell me who they are as time goes along. And that's kind of interesting too, I think. Question number 2. Of these personalities, are they based upon people you know, parts of yourself, people you would like to be, not want to be, or a combination of all? I would definitely say a combination of all. There are certain characters that have qualities that I absolutely wish that I had. And definitely. And there's other characters that have definite pieces of people that I know in them. But it's very important to me that they're their person and true to who they are. They're not some kind of plagiarized person. They're very real, and they reveal themselves in their way. But there are little, like I said earlier, kind of like nods to certain people, and those people know that, most of them. But definitely all of them, because there's certain people that I wish I was or knew. Question number 3. Of your characters, which one do you find absolute freedom in? I would have to say probably my Lori, oddly. And most people hate her, but I feel really sorry for her. But the thing that I love about her is that she's free to be a bitch. And for all the times that I have been called one, because I basically won't lie to someone and to make them feel better if I don't feel it's necessary. If I feel someone needs to hear something, I'm not going to not tell them, even if it makes them angry. And oftentimes that's taken as being a bitch, but I'm really not. And I'm sure everybody says that, but I really am not. But with my Lori, she is who she is, and she has huge walls built around herself for very intense and understandable reasons. But I find freedom in her because she says what she says, and she has absolutely no care for how it hurts somebody. And there have been times in my life where I wish that I had had that mindset, because there are certain people who absolutely should have been told, but because of professionalism or not wanting to cause problems, or just not feeling like it was worthy of wasting my breath for, you know, I've bitten my tongue. But so I find her ability to just say fuck it and I don't care if I hurt your feelings kind of freeing, because I've never ever had that in my life, as much as some people would like to say otherwise. So I guess I've answered all the questions, and I thank you for giving me questions, because I don't often get to talk about writing. It's always focused more on music. So I appreciate those of you who took the time to ask me questions. And so check Amazon for Violent Violet and Crushed Violet. Violet Misery will be out relatively soon, and after that, Violet Death, and so on and so on. There's already about 10 books in various stages of completion. So check back and keep an eye on Amazon, and I'll see you soon. Bye.